streets line mingles with a loud chatter of gossip. I'm surrounded by really great people, just a tad judgmental. We're celebrating the birth of a baby girl. Everyone's happy, but might have been slightly happier if it were a boy, but nobody has to express that. Good food, great conversation. Everyone's collectively hating on multiple minority groups and feeling superior to them because they might be slightly different. I'm sitting there. I'm 8, maybe 7, maybe 6. I'm listening. My lips sealed. I'm observing, I'm absorbing, and I'm internalizing it all. And this is not a memory that I have from my childhood. This is my childhood. This is like every dinner, ever. Being an exchange student from Pakistan, I have witnessed not only two very different lifestyles, but also ways in which communities curtail women. And also, being from a military background, I have been posted to 10 different places in the last 16 years, 2 of whose names I cannot remember. From remote, nameless villages to almost all the major cities of Pakistan, I have seen and lived it all. Now in my country, I had one identity that was constantly working against me, being a woman. You see, in Pakistan, I grew up in a society which was in a state of perpetual fear, hate, and misunderstanding towards the concept of feminism. And I was always skeptical of how an entire nation could be painted with the same hostile colors. I've lived a very simple life, or at least that's what I thought. But as time goes by, a part of me pops up that would shock my society to their very core. You know, there's multiple categories that I fit into that my society would deem unfit. My morals were, actually better put, are defined by the cultural norms around me. Even in my adolescent years, I was always perplexed on what it takes for a woman to be feminine enough. 2012 actually was a very interesting year because in the midst of all the Earth is going to end bits, my life took a very interesting turn in an overcrowded dinner hall. And when I say overcrowded, I mean overcrowded, not American overcrowded, Pakistani overcrowded. You see, I come from a Pakistani family and we do not believe in birth control, or we're not aware of the concept of moving out. So every family pretty much has their own little cricket team living in with it. So when I say overcrowded, you can imagine. Usually at dinner tables, boys are asked about their future career plans, and girls are asked about their dream wedding. But that night, I heard a question that not many girls come across. What do you want to be when you grow up? And upon hearing this deceptively simple question, I burst out, I want to be the Prime Minister of Pakistan. Exactly, and immediately the entire hall burst into a mixture of mocking laughter and confused gazes as I watched in utter perplexity. This tall, bearded gentleman giggled and came near me, approached me, and leaned over me, and with furtive eyes he said, I had a lot of dreams when I was little too, but there's no scope in Pakistan for such policies, especially for women. You do know that, right? And honestly speaking, I had no idea. I was 9. For all I knew, I could be anything that I put my head into. And I watched him walk past me, smiling, at his yet another successful attempt to bring women down. That was my introduction to inequality. That is when a 9-year-old's ambitions failed to stay within those boundaries of femininity. Now, I've always been involved in the Model UN circuit of my country, but there wasn't many Model UNs that I could go to because of my age. So as soon as the Model UN came with no age limit, I applied, and I got in. It was an international university level conference, so I was the only 12-year-old in the midst of all the 18 to 22-year-olds. So this one girl thought that I had tagged along with an older sibling. She asked me if I knew what MUN stands for. This other guy, who I happen to like actually a lot, he's a nice guy. He thought that I was cute, but at this time of the day I was better suited at a park. This one other girl asked me if I had brought my Barbie dolls with me for when I was done speaking about Syria. 3 days later, I won the Best Delegate Award, followed by a thunderous standing ovation from 500 people. That was a very interesting moment, because it made me realize that people will always, always doubt you, and they will always laugh at you, and you have 2 options. Either you laugh along and doubt your own self, or you show them and you silence them. Now, when I was 13, I wanted a Model UN conference of my own because I wanted children of all grades to get the experience. So after a lot of being laughed at, which should not come as a surprise by now, a lot of people told me that for a 13-year-old girl, I needed to chill out. And honestly, you know what? Maybe I did. But I made it happen. And it was a huge success. And the moment I saw many 13-year-olds proposing solutions to major world crises, I knew in that moment that I had succeeded in giving them a platform that they might not have gotten otherwise until very later in their life. You see, my collarbones don't jut out. My hair was really, really short. And until recently, I even sounded like a man, whatever that means. But the question still remains, what is feminine enough? I am passionate about debating in a country where talkative women are frowned upon. Calling myself a feminist makes everyone associated to me uncomfortable, as it indicates that I am no longer the perfect marriageable material. I remember being bothered by the utter denial that the grown-up women around me were in, how everyone had a say in how they should be except them. How they disregarded all the rights that they had been stripped off. Because after all, gender discrimination is more a way of life than an injustice in my country. Their reasoning for not speaking up comprised of religious and social norms of our society, and I was so scared that I might grow up to be the same way, you know? Oppressed, silent, and in absolute denial. 2 years back, I got increasingly concerned about these inhumane values being normalized as I saw the women around me being forced to wear things that they disapproved of, as I saw them murdering their ambitions behind cooking stoves. Even if they were touched without their consent and their choices were made by someone else, they thought that this is how it was supposed to be. I was more concerned of what was happening to them than they were. I wish they'd realize the intensity of their silence. I wish they realized the inhumane precedent that they were setting every day for all the teenage girls of my generation. I wish they'd realize how their justification to their oppression was slowly paving a path so that all the sufferings that they made their way through are able to capture us too. You see, when the oppressors are not held accountable, people all around get desensitized to that oppression. And as soon as people start getting desensitized to that oppression, then unjust ways become a way of life. And when oppression becomes a routine, then it's no longer injustice, it's the norm. And when inequality hits this extent of normalization, tradition is born. And believe me when I say, as soon as the label changes from oppression to tradition, shit goes down. Because now, logic seeps its way out of every argument, and beliefs slowly creep their way in. Like our president puts it, some things never get old. Beliefs too are like walls or tires. Their role today is just as important as in the past. And when tradition is born, and is practiced at large scale, it embeds itself into culture. And now this gives birth to that element of fear. Fear to let things change as time progresses, fear to let culture change, and now, all of a sudden, it's all about honor. It's about the predetermined right and wrong rather than the intangible concept of it. People get emotional, they get defensive, they use culture as their justified outlet of oppression. And there's pretty much nothing you can do about it, because now it's a matter of beliefs. There is no law that holds people accountable for the beliefs that they have, regardless of how toxic they are. There is no justice system for the victims of tradition. So I came to the US around 8-9 months ago. It's been a fun ride. Very interesting times in the US right now. Fascinating times. Oh, wow. I didn't even say what it was, and somehow it put a smile on everyone's face. Good times, yeah. People haven't heard much about Pakistan, so my time at my high school has been particularly interesting. From people being shocked to find out that Pakistan has Apple products to their unbelievably cute reactions when they hear that we have concerts and parties too. Actually, you know what, I'll give them that, because the parties that I mentioned are the thousands of women that get married every month, so which is not probably an average teens idea of a party here, so I'll give them that. Anyway, don't get me wrong, I probably had more stereotypes about you all than the other way around. To me, and pardon my ignorance here, to me, you all were Trump. and it gets better, Netflix. To be more specific, Gossip Girl. Trump and Gossip Girl. Believe me when I say that is a horrible, horrible combination. And for the most part, untrue. For the most part, at least. Legend has it that in my country, if you use the word feminism man with an opinion appears. Now, right? Knowing me, as much as I'm looking forward to my arranged spouse, I will stay single forever because I use the F word way too often. In my country, you constantly say fuck and you're good. Well, at least you're girlfriend material. But you say feminism and boom, you are in manward hell. So Women's Day just passed by. My country had a feminist march. And not surprisingly, the entire country blew up. Men came out with posters that said, not all men, and our consent is important too, and fight for men's rights. And I was so happy to see how far we've come. Like, the 9 months that I've been here, at least we have our priorities right now. You know, sometimes I wonder to myself, if only we had arranged more marches and less marriages, maybe this would not have been the response. I realize that letting go of tradition is not an easy ask. It's actually very, very hard. But tradition has killed so many dreams. It has killed creativity, it has killed hope. Believe me when I say tradition makes it so hard to fight with the people you love over beliefs. Because they might have drastically different views, but at the end of the day, they're family. You say something, you end up feeling guilty. You don't say something, you end up feeling guilty. You're trapped in this vicious cycle of guilt. But it's an interesting time right now, because much of my generation is growing up at that intersection of modern life and tradition, so they're pushing back. And I know that feeling. The feeling of being torn between being good and submissive or being right but radical. So I was having a conversation with one of my friends in the US here and her parents. We were at a dinner table and she immediately said, you know, I don't like that we have no culture in the US. I think we need something that represents us, like a song, a dance, or a dress. And I was sitting there silently thinking, this is exactly what we think culture is, right? Songs, dances, and dresses. We proudly showcase these to the world. But what people are unable to see is what's behind this sheet of songs, dances, and dresses. Behind it is the brokenness of people who once tried to be themselves. Behind it are those shattered dreams and that hopelessness. And don't get me wrong, the US too has a very long time to go, long way to go. I mean, we're going through a very rough time right now, but I'm very optimistic that you'll make it through, because I've noticed that the pace of change is faster here in the US than back home, for the very reason that there is no one culture that supersedes all others. And that is just one of the many things that I've learned while I've been on the exchange. Now, student exchanges, in my opinion, are a very effective path to coexistence. I've seen how relationships with the people that are different than you opens up this whole new paradigm of opinions and beliefs. I've seen how subtle change through relationships can be the most beautiful path to coexistence. I had seen differences suffocate people, I had seen differences push them apart, but then exchange happened. And as cliche as it sounds, it changed my life. I then saw how differences can be the most beautiful path to coexistence, how differences can be something everyone shares in common, something that brings them together instead of pushing them apart. You know, I still vividly remember the day that I first arrived at the doorstep of my host family. I was very nervous. My legs were shaking. I had no idea what I was blabbering about. I had 3 large suitcases. I knocked or rang the bell, doesn't matter, something. They came out, and it struck me like I had no idea who these people were. People that I was going to live with for an entire year. But still, believe me when I say that the moment I stepped in, I knew that it was going to be hard to step out. And by far, what I am the most grateful for is the people that exchange has given me. People that I love, people that inspire me every day, and people that I look up to. And people who accept me for who I am. And that's such a wonderful feeling. It is a wonderful, wonderful feeling, and one that I hadn't known. I had never known what it's like to be accepted from the people you love. And I wouldn't ever have known if not for this exchange. And so, I want to tell all the little girls that might be behind cooking stoves while I speak right now, that there can be more to life than marriage, and there can be more to them than what tradition predetermines. I aspire to be that beacon of hope that I, as a little girl, kept on searching for. I might never have had someone tell me that it's okay to be just me. However, I want to do everything in my ability to make sure that all the girls around me hear it, loud and clear. Thank you.